If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like up. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll stick around for a little while because this is the show where we talk about each and every episode of Superman, the animated series. So if you're a fan of Superman or just cartoons in the 90s, then hop below and hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss anything as it comes out. And today we're talking about the episode Prototype, which originally aired on October 11th, 1997.
The LexCorp police battle suit is the last word in law enforcement.
One thing that I find interesting as I'm going through and reviewing these episodes is how many of episodes aired on the same day. Obviously, World's Finest, that made sense because it was all kind of one thing. But this episode, Prototype, aired on October 11th, the same day that The Hand of Fate aired. And that just seems odd. I don't know why they were pushing these episodes out so quick, or how much of a block of time that these episodes existed in. Or I know at some point in here it was the Batman Superman adventures, and I thought that was just an hour block, but maybe sometimes they showed 2 Superman episodes or 2 Batman episodes. I don't know. But anyway, just a weird thing as I noticed the dates in going through that. This has happened several times where there's been more than one episode that came out on the same day. But anyway, this episode introduces Robocop to the DC animated... No, I'm just kidding. But it does have a lot of similarities to Robocop, a mechanical suit that's put on by a police officer to patrol the streets. But we'll talk all about that right after our 60-second rundown of the episode. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis in 60 seconds or less before the Brainiac bomb explodes. Here we go. Lex Luthor has created a mechanical suit for the police to use, and they have Corey Mills as a demonstration of a police officer to use this. And even though its creator says, John Irons says, maybe this isn't such a good idea, it hasn't been field tested yet, there's an alarm that goes off, and Corey Mills goes off to save it, and it seems to work out pretty good. And even Superman says, man, this is going to be a good thing, and I could use an extra set of hands. But then reports are coming out that he may be going a little bit too far and is a little too violent with the criminals, and then he flies in on this chop shop, and they're doing some bad things there. And so he starts thrashing them around, throwing them around. Superman shows up and goes, hey, whoa, let's settle down. And then they get in a little tough, and Maggie Sawyer luckily shows up and says, hey, officer, stand down. You can't use that suit anymore. And now he's angry, and he's yelling at his wife and wants to steal the suit. So he goes to Luthor and goes, hey, you need to help me. They're trying to take the suit away from me. And Luthor goes, hey, I can help you. But he has this device that can shut down the suit, and he tries to use that, and then they fight. And then Superman shows up and tries to stop him as well. And then they get into this big battle, and finally Superman electrocutes him, but now that he's recovering and coming out of his coma, then Superman goes to John Irons and says, hey, it was a great idea, but maybe too bad it didn't work the way that we wanted it to. And then John Irons goes, maybe this is a good idea. It's tough. I thought I had it.
Gentlemen, ladies, prepare to be amazed.
So when I was a kid, I always enjoyed these kind of characters or stories. I was just fascinated with the idea of putting on this kind of mechanical suit and having it enhance your powers. And I so wanted something like that. And I don't know where that interest or love, but anytime things like this came up in TV shows, I loved it. And even the movie Robocop, I loved that. Even though I was probably a little too young to watch it, it was fun. And I love this putting on a suit and mechanical, and it was, Gizmo Duck in DuckTales. I love that. I remember drawing that and wanting to build my own version of that suit. Or Exo Squad, me and my buddy Kevin would watch that show after school, and that was neat, putting on these giant suits. That was just always a neat thing when I was a kid. And so this episode fit right into that kind of motif.
This is a mistake. It's too soon.
There's an interesting spot in this episode that, again, it's like they kind of avoided a normal trope, which is, I think we're all watching this assuming that they set up Luthor building this suit and everything seems good, that we as viewers are probably going, well, something's not going to go well with this. And usually the trope is everybody loves it and thinks this is the great thing and goes to Superman and goes, why are you so skeptical? Why don't you like this? But But then the only person that doesn't like it is Superman, or the hero, that goes, I don't know, something bad's going to happen. And everybody being against him going, well, why don't you think that this is going to work? You're just afraid he's going to put you out of the job or whatever. That's the trope. And they don't do it in this episode, which I appreciate, is that Superman's a champion of this idea. And he goes, hey, this is great. I can have an extra set of hands. Somebody else can share the workload of saving the city. This is a wonderful idea. And then it's only throughout the process of the episode, as everybody else is discovering that this isn't going the way that they wanted it to, that Superman goes, oh, this isn't a good idea. So I like that. I'm glad that they chose that direction to go rather than putting Superman against this idea right from the beginning.
Happy to have an extra hand.
I was joking about them introducing Robocop, although this is pretty much Robocop. But they do introduce John Henry Irons, who, of course, later on becomes Steel. Also voiced by Michael Dorn, which again is great casting for that character. But again, this is one of those stories where they're setting him up. I know he appears later on. Can't remember if he's in Superman, the animated series, or he just comes in during Justice League, but certainly they're setting him up for that. But this wasn't a throwaway episode just to set that up. And they don't kind of hit you over the head, but they integrate him into the plot of this story and having him be behind helping design or create this suit that sets him up for what they're going to do in the future.
We've got to consider the psychological effects.
And I thought incorrectly that when he shaved his head, one, it made him look more like Lex Luthor, but he shaved his head to give him a better connection with the suit. I was like, I wonder if Lex is going to put this suit on and don this and become superpowered. And this being the predecessor to the Lex Luthor suit, which again is another mech suit that's really cool. Always liked when Lex Luthor got in that and went toe-to-toe with Superman that way. But I was wrong. That's not what they were setting up with that at all.
It's better for the suit.
So the setup is kind of good. Although, I mean, the Robocop story obviously has been done. Him going off the deep end is naturally what was going to happen in the story. But I do have to say, the dialogue, I don't know if they were trying to make Corey Mills kind of a snarky type character, but his dialogue was a little weak, especially when he was in the suit.
Another junkyard rat.
And then it does just fall into kind of a big battle, and Superman trying to fight him, and so this setup that they have in the story kind of falls apart once they know how to stop him, and now they just have to stop him. It's like the episode got wrapped up about 10 minutes too early, and then they had to just kind of stretch it out and fill it up.
There's a jamming device.
Although I do like how Superman wasn't able to use the disabling mechanism that Luthor had, but just shocks him, and getting shocked right into that has to hurt, I would think. But I do like the little nod at the end and John Irons' reaction to that.
It'd be nice to have a little help for a change.
When it comes time to rank this episode, it's okay. I truly, going into it, I wanted to like it more than I did. And I think some of the nostalgia of the kind of mechanized suits for me have worn off a bit as I've gotten older. Although that's kind of cool, but this felt like a common story, a Robocop gone rogue kind of story. And truly, I spent a little bit of this episode sort of just being bored. And sometimes I wonder, it may be just the time that I watched it. Maybe this was later at night, or this was, I wasn't in the right mood when I was watching it. But it does fall a little further down on the list than I thought it would going into the episode. So it ends up at the number 22 spot of my favorite episodes. It's just below Two's a Crowd, because with Rudy Jones as Parasite in that episode, is a great kind of unlikely villain that falls into this mess. And there's some nice lighthearted moments and kind of an interesting story and a challenge for Superman to have to fight him. So those elements just kind of bump that up above this episode. But it does beat out The Last Son of Krypton, because I've talked about that one before, but that's just kind of an origin story. Necessary, important, great way to start the story, but it just not as interesting as the elements that this episode has, even though parts of this episode left me kind of bored.
I warned Luthor this might happen.
So speaking of robotic type suits, what's your favorite Robo Suit? Is it Gizmo Duck or the mech suit that they use in Alien, or a one that I'm not thinking of? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the thumbs up button, or if you didn't, just hit thumbs down. I'm fine with that too. And if you want to see more episodes like this, I have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday reviewing Superman the Animated Series. Just hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of them. And next up, I have the late Mr. Kent, so you don't want to miss that. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode. We'll see you soon.